The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus went off to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, or of Tiberias, and a large crowd followed him, impressed by the signs he gave by curing the sick. Jesus climbed to the hillside and sat down there with his disciples. It was shortly before the Jewish feast of Passover. Looking up, Jesus saw the crowds approaching and said to Philip, "Where can we buy some bread for these people to eat?" He only said this to test Philip. He himself knew exactly what he was going to do. Philip answered, 200 denarii would only buy enough to give them a small piece each. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said, "There is a small boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what is that between so many?" Jesus said to them, "Make the people sit down." There was plenty of grass there, and as many as 5,000 men sat down. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and gave them out to all who were sitting ready. He then did the same with the fish, giving out as much as they wanted. When they had eaten enough, he said to the disciples, "Pick up the pieces left over, so that nothing gets wasted." So they picked them up and filled 12 hampers with scraps left over from the meal of 5 barley loaves. The people, seeing this sign that he had given, said, "This really is the prophet who is come into the world." Jesus, who could see they were about to come and take him by force and make him king, escaped back to the hills by himself. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
What a very different meeting we would have with Jesus, with Philip and Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, if we had to begin thinking of how to feed the people through the pandemic or through the difficulties in St. Vincent. Jesus knew as he began that meeting what he would do. John observes that and remembers that just to test Philip, you see, is Greek-speaking like the people of that area. And so I'm sure there's a Philip in each committee, in each meeting. Philip reveals his research. Well, you see, 200 denarii could only buy, this is all we have in the account. And all it could buy is enough to give everybody a little piece. He's the accountant, and he thinks like that. And then Andrew reveals the research he has done on the crowd. He knows the resources of the community, and he says, you know, there's a small boy here, and he has 5 loaves and 2 fish. I don't know why his mother sent him with so much food, but that's all we have. But in the end, that particular piece of research on the community resources ends up to be just the resources that could fill everybody, that could feed everybody. What is that between so many? Andrew would say, because in every meeting, every committee, it's not always possible to see the vision of the leader, where the leader is going, what is the leader's plan. So there's somebody who won't settle down until they settle that particular worrying question, how are we going to make it? Jesus said to them, make the people sit down. So you see, the leader knows where he's going, and better to settle the crowd. Archbishop Pantin liked this particular line because as he looked into the reading, he said, Jesus says, make the people sit down, and there was plenty of grass. As if to say, the researcher knows that in order to get people fed, you have to make them comfortable, let them have a seat. People don't like lines. That's why 6 feet apart works. But if you said, go ahead and line up, in my own parish church, there are no lines for communion. We go to each, just as you do here in Living Water. People can be seated and ready to be fed with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. I think it must be a rare thing in any church that you could run out of communion. One time I was charged with the task of getting communion on 3 levels of a stadium to 7,000 young people, and also communion under both kinds. We don't have that problem now, thank God. And the bishop had said to me, the one thing I want to be sure is that we never run out of hosts. So I too had my meeting of 5 loaves and 2 fish, and the bishops had a specific rule about communion with the precious blood, with the chalice, that we were never to go up and downstairs with chalices. So there was an Andrew in my committee, and he says, oh, that's easy, let them come down, and we will be at the bottom of each step to administer the chalice. So I said, yes, but the bishop is always worried that the 5 loaves and 2 fish may run out. So I had I don't know if it was an Andrew or Philip in the committee. He says, oh, that's very easy. As long as the bishop is okay, then everything will be okay. So what you do is, if there are 100 people sitting in the rows in front of the bishop where he gives communion, put 200 hosts. I thought it was brilliant, and one day when I communicate with him in Louisiana, I'll ask him if he ever knew what our secret was, what our piece of research was like in order to get that done. But that's actually having fun with the text. But the long and short of the text is this, that the resources of God never run out. It's always the first resource that we need is to trust him and to believe in him, that he knows. Notice John says that Jesus already knew what he was going to do. So how do we say that? Let God be God, because he always will be God. So let's not take away his role. God will be God, and we must trust in him. Let's stand